Number 10. Vader vs Ken Shamrock. UFC Hall of Famer Ken Shamrock and Big Van Vader are two of the toughest individuals to have ever stepped foot inside of a wrestling ring, so you can be sure that their matches would be physical. During Ken Shamrock's WWE pay-per-view debut at In Your House 15 against Vader in a no DQ match, it appeared Shamrock forgot he wasn't in a real street fight, as he would deliver a series of stiff blows right to Vader's face, which would actually break his nose. Shamrock ignored Vader's warning to slow down, so he decided to level Shamrock with one of the stiffest clotheslines you'll ever see, sending Shamrock crashing to the floor. The pair would manage to finish the match, but Shamrock would learn the hard way that the WWE was very different to the UFC. Number 9. Andre the Giant vs Bam Bam Bigelow. If there was ever a wrestler you didn't want to get on the wrong side of, it was Andre the Giant. Andre was beloved amongst wrestlers and fans, and had taken up a locker room leader type role. During this time, it was reported that Bam Bam was walking around backstage with a bad attitude, and Andre was known for quickly changing people's attitudes when the time called for it. During a WWE house show event, Andre and Bam Bam would face off against each other, where Andre took it upon himself to work stiff against Bam Bam to teach him a lesson. As shared by Ted DiBiase, he saw Bam Bam walk backstage after the match, pack up all of his stuff and storm out of the locker room, quitting the company due to how Andre had treated him in the ring. Fans were shocked at the sudden departure, but Andre's lesson seemed to have worked, as Bam Bam would later admit that Andre was right and that his attitude did need changing for the better at the time. Number 8. Perry Saturn vs Mike Bell. Mike Bell may sound unfamiliar to you, and that's because he's only known for this incident. During a dark match before an episode of Monday Night Raw in 2001, Perry Saturn took on Mike Bell. However, Saturn felt that Bell was being reckless in the ring, after botching a number of basic moves, including an arm drag which planted Saturn on his head. After this, Saturn saw red, and turned the match into a real one-sided beatdown, viciously punching Bell into the corner and throwing him out of the ring, landing directly on his head. Saturn would continue to dominate Bell with a stiff series of moves, and even scarily targeting Bell's neck. After the match, Saturn would face heavy criticism backstage from WWE officials, with even WWE legend Stone Cold Steve Austin stating that Saturn had handled the incident the wrong way. As punishment, Saturn was given the infamous mop gimmick, which would eventually be the downfall of a once promising run within the company. Number 7. Chris Jericho vs Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon has always been popular amongst fans and the talent backstage, so much so that a number of talent have stated that working with Shane in the ring has been a highlight in their careers. However, the same cannot be said for Chris Jericho, who would end up having a legit physical confrontation with Shane at the 2016 Survivor Series. Shane and Jericho were fighting on behalf of their teams during the traditional Raw vs SmackDown elimination match, when Shane came into the ring overhyped and started pummeling Jericho with a series of stiff shots into the corner. Jericho would tell Shane to calm down, which he would ignore, and Jericho could be seen visibly frustrated on the outside of the ring, before he decided to teach Shane a lesson the hard way by delivering a stiff dropkick off the top rope right to Shane's face. Shane seemed to get the message after this, as the rest of the match carried on as planned. Number 6. Brock Lesnar vs Braun Strowman. Brock Lesnar is well known for being the most dominant combat sport athlete on the WWE roster, with a reputation that no one wants to mess with. However, at the 2018 Royal Rumble, Braun Strowman would find out the hard way exactly why they call Brock the Beast. This incident occurred during the triple threat match for the WWE Universal Championship between Kane vs Braun Strowman vs Brock Lesnar. During the match, Strowman would get overly physical with Lesnar, delivering stiff blows and knees to his face. However, Lesnar wouldn't take this lightly, and proceeded to punch Strowman right in the face, making it clear that if he didn't calm down, then Lesnar would quickly beat him down for real. Once backstage, Strowman reportedly apologised to Brock for the incident, and both men are on good terms moving forward. Number 5. Hardcore Holly vs Rene Dupree. Hardcore Holly had a reputation for not only working stiff, but also being a bully at times. If you crossed him the wrong way, you'd soon realise it. Rene Dupree was no different, as he fell victim to Holly's hardcore style. The pair had a dispute over a parking ticket that Dupree had picked up in a car under Holly's name whilst travelling between shows. So one night on a house show during a tag team match between Hardcore Holly and Charlie Haas versus Rene Dupree and Kenzo Suzuki, Holly would take it upon himself to teach Dupree a lesson by legitimately beating him up during the match with a series of stiff strikes when both had tagged into the match. This was during the time of the early internet, so it isn't often heard of, but WWE let Holly off with the incident and didn't punish him afterwards. Number 4. Koko B. Ware vs. the Masked Patriot. Many fans remember WWE Hall of Famer Koko B. Ware for his fun and colourful persona with his parrot by his side. However, what many fans don't know is that the beloved wrestler once lost his cool during a match in the 1980s that turned into a legitimate shoot fight. This match took place for the Continental Wrestling promotion, where Koko would face off against the Masked Patriot. As the match unfolded, for unknown reasons, the Masked Patriot would begin delivering stiff punches to Koko's face, which Koko would respond to by delivering stiff punches of his own, including a clothesline that actually knocked the Masked Patriot out. If that wasn't enough, Koko would continue to kick and punch his opponent and finished off the match with a legitimate brainbuster to finish off the Masked Patriot and teach him a lesson for real. Number 3. Charlotte Flair vs. Nia Jax. This moment was a bizarre one, which saw two of the top names in the women's division and real-life friends break down into a real fight. The pair would face off on the August 30th, 2021 edition of Monday Night Raw in a bout that would prove to be quite different from their matches in the past. There seemed to be a breakdown in communication at one point during the match, and the pair would begin throwing fists and slaps out of the blue until they managed to regain their composure to finish the match. PW Insider would later report that there was a heated moment within the match which wasn't revealed, which led to the brief scuffle. However, both women laughed it off once backstage and remain friends to this day. Number 2. The Public Enemy vs. the APA. The APA were well known for taking no-nonsense approach whilst in the ring and backstage, so when the Public Enemy had a disagreement with them about their match finish, the APA decided to beat them up for real throughout the actual match. Bruce Pritchard would reveal that the APA felt disrespected by Public Enemy and so decided to teach them a lesson by beating them down for real. This would all take place on a March 1999 episode of Sunday Night Heat in what would prove to be a brutal squash match with fists and weapons being used for real. Both teams would finish the match and shake hands afterwards, but shortly after the Public Enemy would be released from the WWE due to what was said to be a lack of creative. However, most think that this incident is the catalyst for what would be their departure from the company. Number 1. Kurt Angle vs. Daniel Puder. During the 2004 Tough Enough series, the contestants would appear on SmackDown and on one occasion had to compete in a planned shoot-style wrestling match with the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. Angle would make light work of the rookies all up until former MMA fighter Daniel Puder would enter the ring. The original plan was of course for Angle to win, but plans soon went out the window as Puder would lock in a Kimura lock onto Angle, nearly forcing him to tap out, which would have for sure damaged WWE and Kurt Angle's reputation. Luckily, the referees were at hand to notice this and had to quickly count a pinfall as Angle tried to press Puder's shoulders to the mat. Fans were initially confused as to what had just happened, and as later reported by Dave Meltzer, Puder had in fact gone into business for himself and decided to shoot on Angle. In this instance, most MMA fighters would have tapped, but for obvious reasons Angle wasn't able to on live TV. So if the referee hadn't counted a pinfall, Angle would have likely ended up in the hospital with a broken arm.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling content.